let's just see if I can do this without my glasses. I noticed in the last video that glaring light from the ring light is reflecting into my glasses. It's probably pretty distracting, so we're gonna try it without that today. If there's like a switch halfway through and I'm wearing glasses suddenly, I'm sorry, I tried, but the eyesight's not great. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Anyway, let's get going. This 19th century wasn't exactly known for being the best time to be alive. There was all kinds of things out there that could end you, and people had no idea of the risks. See that video I did on dangerous Victorian cosmetics in case you want an idea of what things were like. But among all those instances of death or injury, there are a few cases that really stand out, and I've collected a few bizarre deaths from the Victorian era or the 19th century. Some of these stories did not take place in England, and therefore people of that time did not subscribe to naming this time frame by a British monarch. The same rules just don't apply. So, from having one's esophagus clawed out from the inside by a rodent to a pallbearer who was crushed by the coffin he was helping to carry, here are just a few strange stories from that era. Before we get too far into this, hello there, my name is Dee, and if you're new here, Creepycassettiyt is your place for horror in reality and beyond. On this channel, we talk about dark history, weird mysteries, true crime, and strange tales. If any of that sounds interesting to you, please subscribe so you don't miss our little chat. And if you know someone you think might find this topic interesting, please share. All of these tasks really help my channel, and I really appreciate you for it, but let's get on with it. In January 1875, a South London factory was momentarily sent into disarray when a wayward rat ran on a woman's workstation. Many of the ladies scurried away from the rat. The commotion prompted one of the fellas working at this factory to come to the rescue. He picked up the rat, and for a moment everyone breathed a sigh of relief, but the wily rodent escaped the man's grip, ran up his sleeve out of the opening at his collar, and when the man opened his mouth to gasp, the rat ran in. The Manchester Evening News remarked that people had long believed rats could hold their breath for quite some time, and this was unfortunately proven by this incident. It wasn't that the rat choked the man out. Instead, it clawed and bit its way down into the man's chest cavity and ultimately led to his demise. Can you imagine? You're just thinking, it's just a rat. How much harm can this really come to? I literally can't imagine. I would have had to grab something to trap it humanely because I have no issues with rodents. But what about rabies? Was that not a concern back then? Do rats not carry rabies? I feel like they do. Hello, Dee in editing here. So this is why we trust in Google, right? I did go look it up, and according to the CDC, small rodents like squirrels, hamsters, guinea pigs, gerbils, chipmunks, rats, and mice, and lagomorphs, including rabbits and hares, are almost never found to be infected with rabies and have not been known to transmit rabies to humans. So that's what I got for you. Let's get back to the ring video. I don't know, it's research to do for another day. On Christmas 1886, a man from Flatbush, New York, Samuel Doe, took his job as a lamplighter very seriously. He was responsible for lighting lamps at dusk and putting them out again at dawn, a job that required a level of punctuality. To ensure that he was up at the right time each day, he rigged up some wires, a shelf, and a 10-pound rock to his alarm clock. When the alarm went off in the morning, the shelf would fall and the large rock would hit the floor, effectively waking the man. This invention worked well for quite some time, but then one day he decided to have some friends around for a little Christmas Eve soiree, and to make space in his room, he moved the furniture out, including his bed. When the party was over and the guests said their goodbyes, an exhausted Wardell moved his furniture back into the room. He didn't pay too much attention to where he placed his bed, so at 5 a.m. when his alarm went off, the boulder came crashing down on his skull. Talk about the headache from Hades. In a true show of irony, we have the story of Henry Taylor. In November of 1872, Taylor, a pallbearer, his co-bearers, the mourners, and priests advanced to a burial site following the funeral services. It was a notably damp day, making everyone's footing a little unstable. Taylor and 5 other men pulled the heavy lead-lined coffin from the back of the funerary carriage and started pacing down the 3x6 walking path. The gravedigger, who was standing beside the grave, gave the pallbearers the order to turn so that the coffin could be submitted head first. When they turned, the 60-year-old tailor tripped over a rock. The other pallbearers let the coffin go. The coffin fell forward, knocking Taylor to the ground, resulting in crushed ribs and a broken jaw. The mourners were left in shock, and the predeceased widow was hysterical. The burial continued for those in attendance, except for those who helped Taylor to the local hospital. He lived for a few more days before succumbing to his injuries, and I wonder if his fellow pallbearers let him down one more time before he was sailed away for eternal rest. Poor guy, yikes. In 1870, a woman in Iran who was described as eccentric owned a lot of cats. She was also rich, so all these felines she owned and bred were pretty well taken care of. Well, a fire broke out in her home and quickly swept through the house. She sent 2 of her maids to release the cats from behind the door of the room they resided in. The cats were in such distress from the heat of the fire that they were going nuts. When the ladies opened the door, the many cats attacked them, tearing them apart with each scratch and bite. By the end of the attack, both of the maids were dead. That is a nightmare of a scenario. I love cats, and as a result, I have been scratched by a few. I even have an unfortunate upper lip scar from being scratched by a kitten as a teenager. He saw the dog coming and tried to climb my face. Anyway, I can only imagine being scratched deep into your flesh by a bunch of frightened cats. Something to consider for people who own a ton of cats. Make sure you have a good exit strategy in case of a fire, because that could be you. On January 11th of 1854, a 13-year-old boy named William Snyder, who was peddling candy and peanuts at a theatrical performance, was approached by a circus clown. This clown's name was Manuel Reyes, and he may have had some level of mental illness. He approached William, grabbed him by his heels, and swung him around several times. The boy was left unconscious, and blood came streaming out of his mouth. He was taken to the hospital and passed away shortly after. An autopsy determined that this death was caused by a rupture of the left pulmonary artery. Manuel Reyes was arrested. The coroner, however, determined the death was accidental and ruled it as such. It's noted that William was originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, and the incident took place in San Francisco, California, so he was a long way from home. I was able to find some pictures of the articles written about his death, and none mentioned his parents. This was a time when a lot of children were orphaned. It could have been a matter of that he was just there to make a few bucks just to survive. So imagine being this kid who's already probably has it pretty rough, and you get taken out by a clown. That really bites. Well, that was weird. Thanks for going on this short journey into bizarre Victorian/19th century deaths with me. There was actually quite a few of these, so if you want me to do this again, let me know in the comments. I might do it again anyway, honestly. It was an interesting topic to explore. I might not keep it Victorian 19th century either, because there are a ton of stories like this from all different centuries. I mean, there's a whole page on Wikipedia, so I'll be back. Please like and subscribe. Bye.